Well, here we are with my full review of Foreign Tongues, the Rolling Stones' brand new studio album that was just released. Some of you may have seen my video earlier this week that was sort of more of a first impressions reaction video after listening to Foreign Tongues in full. But obviously, this video is going to be going into more detail. So if you're looking for a spoiler-free video review, this won't be it. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, we have a lot to get to, so let's go. Well, I think the first thing everyone wants to know is Foreign Tongues better than Hackney Diamonds, the Stones' last studio album that was released 3 years ago, also produced by Andrew Watt? My first reaction is to say, yes, it is. But it's very important to note that these are very different albums completely. And let me explain why. Hackney Diamonds is, first of all, a 48-minute studio album, which is very impactful. The whole essence of Hackney Diamonds is that it comes in with a punch. It's kind of like a hit and run temperament. The songs are very tight, and the whole album is very tight. It's meant to be taken in one sitting very easily. Foreign Tongues, on the other hand, is 62 minutes. So already you can see these are not the same album. Foreign Tongues asks a lot more from the listener. And that's really where I'm going to go with this review, is that Foreign Tongues is a whole different beast altogether. It's a larger canvas that you're dealing with in terms of what it's doing, in terms of the songs and the sound, compared to Hackney Diamonds. Foreign Tongues is a journey kind of album. You start somewhere in the beginning of the album, and by the end of it, you end up somewhere else completely. This album, just like Hackney Diamonds, is meant to and should be taken in as a whole, because the power of the album really comes through taking it in complete form of the entire album altogether. With that said, I believe Foreign Tongues takes what they did in Hackney Diamonds and they completely level up the playing field completely. They are more adventurous on Foreign Tongues, pushing the limits on various things. Mick's singing, the songwriting is even more refined and way more laser focused than Hackney Diamonds. And the songs go in different places. The album goes in different places altogether in terms of sounds and genres and styles. And it just continues to push even further than Hackney Diamonds pushed. We can't talk about Foreign Tongues without talking about Andrew Watt. And it's clear now that we are most definitely in an Andrew Watt era. And we can see now even further what he's bringing to the table for the Stones. Because like I said, Foreign Tongues is really pushing what they did in Hackney Diamonds to yet another level. And what I'm finding on Foreign Tongues is that the songs here are way more refined and way more quality controlled compared to previous Stones albums more than ever. There's not much fat on these songs. They're very lean songs. They're very muscular songs and very little fat on them. And all the songs are composed in a way where it's very, very tight. The transitions from verses to choruses are very smooth and very economical. And you can tell that they somehow found this formula where they were able to get the perfect equation for these songs. Songs like Covered in You, for example, is a great example of this, where the song starts and you think you're in this kind of dreamy ballad at first. You think, oh, this is going to be a slow song. But then the intro starts and you're in this very heavy rock song. Then the choruses come in. The choruses are, again, a very romantic, kind of dancey, airy vibe to that. And it's all done very masterfully, which is the kind of smoothness and the kind of eloquence that wasn't there in a lot of the latest Stones recordings from the past 25 years, 30 years, let's say. And I think with the help of Andrew Watt, Mick finally found someone who could get his ideas and deliver them in a way that made them smoother and more palatable without it being a little sloppy. And this album is very tight because of that. Mick mentioned in one of the interviews during the wrap-up for Foreign Tongues that he took great care to have the songs go through some significant pre-production before he even got in the studio, perhaps more so now than he ever did in the past. And that shows off completely here. That's probably why these songs are so strong. And on this album, Mick has found a cool little new toy that he's been playing around with that works very well. In the interviews for promotion of the album, he mentioned that he was trying something on this album that he called melodic rapping, which was, of course, a very intriguing thing to hear him say. And so we wondered what the heck he meant. And now we know what he meant, because it's kind of all over this album where he's singing these lyrics, but it's in a very rhythmic way. He's not really singing the song like you would imagine singing a song, but it's very much a rap, what he's doing, in a rock sense. It's not rapping like you know it in traditional sense. It's a very rock kind of view. And it opens up the songs because it's a brand new thing that you can feel that he's excited about. And he's trying it in all these different songs, like in Mr. Charm and in Covered in You, to have two examples there where he's using this new method. And it's frankly just fascinating to listen to, because you can tell he's having fun with it and that it's working. He uses it to great effect on Mr. Charm. Mr. Charm is my favorite track of the damn album, 100%. I'm still in shock when I listen to that song, because it is so just badass. That's the only way for me to describe that song. It's a badass. It's a badass song. It's a great riff from Keith there, where it sounds like this combination of, well, mainly Monkey Man. You get this Monkey Man vibe from that opening riff that's so juicy, so funky, that's so quintessential Keith. It's, I don't know where he found that riff, but, like he always says, the gods, grace upon him, these riffs, and it's his job to pick them up on the antenna. Thank God the antenna was on that day, because that's a great riff. And the whole song is, it's a powerhouse song. It's a highlight for me, and it's one of my favorite damn tracks of the whole thing. That one is that's a showstopper completely. And the other undeniable fact on Foreign Tongues is that Steve Jordan is absolutely destroying the drums on this album. 100%. I mean, as much as Mick Jagger is really the focal point of the album, because vocally he is a tour de force completely on the album, Steve Jordan is absolutely ripping it up, absolutely just tearing it up to shreds on every track. It's, like I said, it's what they did on Hacky Diamonds, but they're pushing the limit again here. And Steve Jordan is absolutely leading the way, a joy to listen to. And of course, any minute now, we're going to get the comment where people are going to say that the album is a mixed solo album, which is the most lamest thing you could probably say if you're going to review a Stones album. It's not exactly the most creative thing. So frankly, don't waste your time trying to figure out if this album is a mixed solo album. Obviously, most of the songs Mick brought to the table, but the collaboration and the group chemistry that happens on the album does not take a back seat to Mick bringing the song. It's a Rolling Stones record 100% all the way. One of the great things about Foreign Tongues is that there are many opportunities for each of the band members to shine. Mick Jagger, like I mentioned earlier, he absolutely is a tour de force vocally. He is doing so many incredible things that you're just in awe of, really. Needless to say, Mick is obviously in top form. Keith is 100% all over this album. I don't care what people are saying. It's hard to find him. Check your ears, check your speakers. What's great about this album is that the mix is very, very honest, and you could reliably just stare at the left channel and there's Keith. There's no doubt about that. That's Keith. I've heard people say that that's Andrew Watt on the left channel. Not to my ears. The instincts, the playing, the style, the attitude, Keith Richards. That's who's on the left side, and you can rely on that throughout the entire album, with Ronnie being on the right. His one lead vocal track on Foreign Tongues, Some of Us Are on Our Knees, is fantastic. It's a very soulful, country-twinged kind of song that is much different from where it started, because it started originally from the Dirty Work sessions, but that was a little bit more of a different vibe than it is now, 40 years later. There's an incredible moment in that song that is easily probably my favorite moment of the entire album, which I thought about speaking about now, but I'm going to save it for another video. but it's truly a wonderful moment. So his songwriting comes through on that song, and I believe the song "Side Effects" also is one of his. The movement and the chords and the changes on that song is very key, at least in the verses. But that song is one of two songs that is co-written by Andrew Watt. Side Effects and Back in Your Life are the only two songs co-written by Andrew Watt. Those two songs, Side Effects and Some of Us Are on Our Knees, are the only times where you really sense and feel Keith in the writing. So that's the only one of the few disappointments on the album. But as a guitar player, he's absolutely there, and very much a different experience than for me listening to Hacking Diamonds, where it was kind of difficult to spot Keith in the mix and in the mastering. It was an overwhelming experience, but this album is much more grounded, so it's way easier to spot Keith, which is great. And that to me is what elevates Foreign Tongues to Hacking Diamonds, is that this album feels way more organic and has more of a live feel than Hacking Diamonds. Because of that, that's exactly what made me feel like I was listening to a classic Rolling Stones album, because the presentation, the arrangement, the production was something where you could just sit back and just watch the music. There was all these sounds and all these guitars and licks and piano licks and riffs and harmonies and voices just all over, this kaleidoscope of sound. Then you could easily spot everything. And that wasn't necessarily the case in Hacking Diamonds, at least for me. Ronnie does not phone in a single second on this album. I think second to, Mick, and in a way, well, you got to put Steve there because he's working his ass off too. But Ronnie is absolutely doing some fantastic stuff throughout the album. His slide work on Rough and Twisted, fantastic. His slide work on Ringing Hollow, which is a beautiful song. That chorus on Ringing Hollow is so good. The guitar work from both Keith and Ronnie on that track is fantastic. And not only is it a well-written song that is clever, because Mick is writing, when Mick writes things that are political, things can get a little dicey. Which way is he going to go? Is it going to be Indian Girl? Is it going to be Sweet Neocon? Is it going to be Undercover of the Night? Where is he going? And here he does it tastefully. Man, that's a classic. That's an absolute classic. And you've got some great Keith harmony on that, although it's a lower register Keith harmony. He's really doubling Mick, but you do get an upper register Keith towards the end of the song. But the whole band shines on that one, and Ronnie sounds fantastic on that. But Ronnie's shining moment is Back in Your Life. An epic song. This song is quite something. It's heartbreaking. It's so beautiful. Ronnie just knocks it right out of the park. He talks about that he recorded that solo just days after Brian Wilson passed away and Sly Stone passed away. So he was feeling extra, emotional in the sessions, and he delivered this amazing solo, which apparently was much longer than we got in the recording. This is Ronnie Wood's Shine a Light. What Shine a Light was to Mick Taylor for him takes you away. It's really a grand finale to the album. And for me, works really, really well. So Ronnie Wood is very much an MVP on the album. The cool thing is Ronnie also plays bass on the album. He plays bass on two tracks, Rough and Twisted and In the Stars. Daryl Jones plays bass on the rest of the tracks, except for Covered in You, where Paul McCartney plays bass, and also the song Hit Me in the Head, where Andrew Watt plays bass on that track. I love the Charlie Watts track on this, Hit Me in the Head, which was recorded in 2019. Charlie is just laying it down so strong on this, and it's, in a weird way, production-wise, in terms of how the drums sound, because the drums were recorded not by Andrew Watt. This was in 2019, before Andrew Watt even came onto the picture here for the Stones. So this was still technically during the Don Was era when this was recorded. The drums were recorded, I guess, differently, because it does come off differently from the rest of the album. And it kind of sounds like something you'd hear from Dirty Work. The combination of the drums and the guitars being so crunchy and aggressive. It's very much a Dirty Work vibe. Boy, is it powerful, and boy, is it special to hear Charlie and all of them just rocking on it. And it's Andrew Watt playing bass on this, which I'm not exactly happy about. It would have been great to get Bill Wyman on that, but it is what it is. But it's definitely one of the highlights for me. One of the things I began to notice throughout the album was that there was a little bit of a formula that was beginning to take shape as I was listening to all the songs, which was something that I actually noticed when I first listened to In the Stars a month or two back, which was in that song, I noticed that the verses were its own little flavor, and then the chorus of that song was its own little thing, which was quite a left turn from the verse. I noticed that it almost felt like you had two different things fused together. Anyway, listening to Foreign Tongues, I began to notice that that was actually a trend that happens on almost all the songs. Always, in a way, have this way where you felt they were a bit forced together because they're so drastically different. Time will tell if that is something I find out will be a bigger minus for me on the album than it is right now, but it is something that I noticed. In terms of feeling and an experience, Foreign Tongues is very much the classic double album experience where when you take off those headphones, you're like, where did we just go? Wow. What was all that? It's overwhelming because you are kind of bombarded with a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of stuff to digest. My point is all of that comes through on this album more than any other album from the last 30 years or so. And so I think objectively that is impossible to miss on this album. You'd have to be purposely ignoring it for other reasons to not see that there is a level of ambition and a level of risk that they're trying to test out. And I think the verdict is that they succeed with flying colors. At this point of their career, to try something this ambitious and succeed, you've got to give them points for that. You can't downplay it. It's so abundantly clear on this album that they took a big swing and it paid off. And so with that, I think that the album is stunning. I'm giving this album right now about 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think it is an embarrassment of riches, a fantastic experience, a true Rolling Stones record. Foreign Tongues, a remarkable piece of work, an absolute incredible feat. And it doesn't sound like it's the Rolling Stones protecting their legacy, not at all. It sounds to me like Foreign Tongues is adding on to that legacy, and long may they roll. Love to hear what you think of Foreign Tongues. Put it all in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Hang Fire.